President Al-Fattah al-Sisi described Israel's war on Gaza as one of the starkest manifestations of double standards and violations of international law. How significant is it for Egypt to voice such strong language on a BRICS platform, and what message does this send to the wider international community?
Certainly what Israel is doing, this genocide, which is not commendable by the international law. They are eliminating civilians and bombarding houses. They are targeting medical staff and hunting journalists. Also, they are willing to forcefully displace the civilians. What they are committing, the crimes they are committing, contradicts with the international law. Unfortunately, it is faced with silence, which is a negative response by many capitals throughout the world. On the other hand, Israel is complicit in committing genocide, and they are doing planned killings and mass killings of Palestinians, which will lead to the reduce of the trust and the credibility of international organizations, which will impact on this, which will impact the sovereignty of many principles in relation to respecting the rights in light of the international laws and regulations. All these matters and factors were undermined by Israel. On the other hand, the world is practicing a shameless silence.
In his speech, Sir, President al-Sisi explicitly rejected any scenario of forcibly displacing Palestinians from their land. To what extent does this stance position Egypt as a guardian of Palestinian rights, and how does it shape Egypt's regional and international role in the conflict?
Of course, the Egyptian stance declining the forceful displacement is a pivotal stance that will not be disregarded by Cairo. It has been our stance since decades regarding the Palestinian cause. It aligns with our fundamentals, which promote the right of the Palestinians, who hold every right to establish their state, a state that answers to their ambitions. They must own a state that can give them safety and that can relieve them of the historical injustice that was imposed upon them. And President al-Sisi's efforts were pivotal, and many regional and international efforts were based upon Egypt's efforts. Egypt is now aligning momentum on the international theater. Our stance is firm. If it were not for our stance, the Arab nations wouldn't have succeeded. And maybe Israel could have succeeded in their agenda. This Egyptian role is supported regionally and internationally, and it signifies Cairo's tireless efforts in performing our duties and providing support. So our stance is being supported by Europe, but the United States, one of the key players, up until this moment, they are still funding Israel and overlooking the diplomatic routes, and they are shielding Israel from international accountability. They are protecting Netanyahu's cabinet, the United States, and Netanyahu's cabinet are committing a textbook crime in Palestine.
The Egyptian president condemned Israel's use of starvation and deprivation of health care as weapons of war. How does this framing influence the legal discourse on Israeli actions in Gaza, especially in relation to accusations of genocide or crimes against humanity, sir?
Certainly, the starvation and the forceful blocking of aid convoys are additional crimes to be added to Israel's records. And since day one, we saw that they had an intent to starve and block the Palestinians' access to humanitarian aid. They also devastated all the facilities within the strip to prevent the entry of humanitarian aid. Egypt was trying to push aid inside. The Israelis tried their utmost to prevent the entry of these aid convoys, and the Palestinians started falling like leaves because they were prevented from medicaments and food and beverage. Also, the Israelis bombarded the facilities within the premises of the Gaza Strip. Egypt, on the other hand, has contributed the majority of the aid which entered Palestine through the Rafah crossing to provide relief for the Palestinians and those in need. And we undertake it upon ourselves to provide them with aid and to receive aid from international sources and push it into Palestine. We want to render the Israeli plan on starvation. We want to render it failing. So the Israelis are employing equipment to kill the Palestinians and to force them to migrate. We, on the other hand, are trying to provide entry for the greater numbers of aid. The Israelis, on the other hand, aim to displace the Palestinians and murder and butcher the civilians, the innocent civilians in Gaza.